about to leave. Already packing, come with me.
I'm Ben.
I'm Maz.
And we moved to Australia with our children in 2016.
We've set up a new life for ourselves here on the Sunshine Coast, and we film all about it, as well as giving you some tips and tricks in case you're looking at doing the same.
We'll get away. This is what we waited for.
Hi guys, and welcome back to the Bam Family Lamb. This week we're going to let you know what it's like living on acreage.
So with the property prices rising massively in many coastal suburbs, a lot of people have started looking inland a little bit to try and find themselves something more affordable. Often when you move inland, you get some different choices from what you may have had on the coast. For example, you may be able to look at larger blocks. We thought we'd tell you our thoughts on what it is like living on acreage. And just to be clear, we're not talking about living on huge farms. That's something entirely different. That's a completely different topic.
We're talking hobby farms.
Yeah, yeah, or even just a few acres.
So back in October we moved onto a 10-acre property which they actually consider a hobby farm. So the guy that used to own the house before us used to keep cows and chickens.
But as people that have always lived in towns, we're clearly not farmers, so that's not going to be our gig with a hobby farm. Our idea of having 10 acres was not to have livestock, but more to have manicured lawns. So a little bit different, I guess, from what rural properties are usually used for. So we'll talk a little bit about that and just give you an idea of what it is really like looking after a property like this, because it's certainly nothing like having a 600 square block in a more urban suburb. Firstly, I think it's fair to say that whatever you choose to do with an acreage property, it is going to be a complete change of lifestyle for you if you move from something smaller to an acreage.
Yeah, big time. It's total sort of new experience, total lot of new skills you've got to learn and pick up. With this, you've got to do most of the work yourself, because you would just be forking out hundreds or thousands of dollars to get someone in to do bits and pieces on your property.
Yeah.
And it's going to be a constant thing as well.
I actually learnt how to use the whipper snipper last week.
And now she can't stop using it.
Love it. Living on an acreage, it's often the case that you'll be further away from conveniences that you're used to. For example, going to the supermarket might not just be a 1-minute trip anymore. It might be a 20 or 30-minute trip, in which case you will need to plan your visits and be a bit more savvy about actually getting everything you need, as opposed to forgetting items and having to just pop there.
More sufficient.
In an evening, yeah. Efficient.
So the next thing you might want to start thinking about is having some animals that you've never thought of having before. So like having cows, goats, sheep, just so they can eat the grass, keep that nice and low for you so you don't have that massive chore, because it is very expensive trying to cut your grass on a daily basis or a few times a week. It is a large amount of grass you've got to cut, and you've got to get quite big machinery to start doing this. Yeah,
I mean, it might be the case that you actually want animals as livestock, but it might be that you need a bit of help with the lawn. And
yeah.
It's a fun way to get the lawn cut. If you don't consider getting animals to help you with your lawns, you might end up investing in a tractor like we did. And that's something that you might not necessarily have expected to have to do. So it's something to bear in mind.
Yeah, you might want to get yourself some big boy toys.
Yes.
Who doesn't want to get some big toys?
Or big girl toys. Not just for boys.
Well,
tractors are not just for boys. One thing that owning an acreage brings you is that you need to really consider spending your money. So unless you have got a ridiculous amount of cashola in the bank, you would have to consider any job that you want to do. So for example, if you wanted to fence your property, You're not talking 20 or 50 metres of fencing, which is, you know, probably doable for most people. You're having to consider hundreds of metres of fencing, and that comes at a massive cost.
Yeah, even for us to do our driveway, we got a few quotes, and that was a big amount of money, more than you'd spend on a nice car. Everything is a lot bigger, a lot more expensive. Maybe look at a property that has some of this stuff already set up for you. It'll save you a lot of money.
Yeah, the other thing to think of as well is that if you wanted to do big jobs to your property, you might have to be a bit more resourceful. You might already have things on your property that you can use, like materials that you can use, or you might have to buy the materials, even second-hand sometimes. It might be that you need to start doing jobs that you've never considered doing before. You might have paid someone to come in and landscape your garden before. You might have paid someone to come in and do fencing or driveways. Now,
It's down to you.
Now living on an acreage, you might have to think a bit differently, and you might have to get your hands very dirty.
It can be very long days and sometimes long nights as well, if you're going to be doing big jobs and big changes to that property that you're just buying.
And saving yourself thousands.
Also, looking after a big property is very, very time consuming. It's very early starts, late finishes, just to get small amounts of the areas done to a good standard, and you'll find you're just going over and over the same jobs again and again, because the time you got to the end of it, it's time to start it again and keep repeating.
And if you've got full-time jobs on top of that, away from your property, it's likely that you'll have to come home from work and then start work on your property.
Yeah.
By the way, Ben started his new job.
Yeah. And Ben's coming home doing jobs.
One thing we've also noticed is that where we're having to work on the property and get chisel done, we're getting dirty. We have found that it's making our house more dirty, and so that's an extra job as well, to keep on top of that and make sure that's kept clean. I've got a really bad habit as well of wearing my work boots as I walk through the house.
She does.
So that doesn't help matters.
And I've got now a bad habit of walking behind her with the broom trying to clean up after her.
Yeah, but that's not a bad habit. One thing about living rurally is that you might have different services to what you're used to. So you might not have mains electric at your property, you might not have mains water. On our property we don't have mains water, we have water tanks, and that's not something we're used to.
You might not be paying as much money for your water, but you're going to have much quicker showers to make sure you're preserving your water for a longer period. Because here in Australia we can go months and months without rain, and yeah, then it can start affecting you in the long run. So start conserving at the beginning and then sort of work out what's going on in the future.
Yeah, and you might have to bear in mind the upkeep of having your own services. You can't just obviously call the water company to fix everything if there's a problem. You have to bear that in mind, although hopefully we won't have any problems. Fingers crossed.
However, there is so many wonderful benefits to have on having an acreage property.
So often people with acreage properties can work from home and also have the opportunity to set up businesses that they wouldn't have been able to without the space. For example, you might have a spare building on your property that you can work from. You might have the space where you can do farming, which you wouldn't have obviously been able to do on a 600 square block. You might have the space to put extra accommodation on your property so that you can earn a living from that. There's a lot of choices when you have an acreage property. So that leads on to the opportunity when you have a large property of being more sustainable because you have more space. So, for example, you might put massive veggie gardens so that you don't need to buy so much produce. You might have chickens so that you can get eggs. You might obviously have a farm going on, unlike us. You might have options such as compostable toilets that you wouldn't have necessarily had in a new build area. So you obviously having solar on your roof is something that you could do anywhere, but It's unlikely that in an urban property you would have rainwater tanks. So all of these things are options to become more sustainable.
Yeah.
That you wouldn't necessarily be things that you would do if you lived on a smaller property or a smaller block.
Yeah, and all these things also save you a lot of money, which is very important.
Well, they're expensive to put in the first place, but they might mean that your monthly expenses are less.
Yeah. Another bonus is not having neighbours nearby. So really, if you're a loud sort of outgoing family, you can be as noisy as you want, and it's not going to disturb neighbours. You won't fall out with anyone like that.
You don't need to worry about it.
Yeah, you can run around, do whatever you want on your property, and it won't worry anyone.
It also affords you more privacy, so depending on what kind of privacy you need, but anywho, it affords you more privacy not having people close by and being able to see into your home or into your garden even. But it might be that you never even see neighbours. On the flip side of this, often rural communities have a great social community. So if you do want to be more social, there's always the option to go to local pubs, hotels, and get to know your community.
Yeah, and a lot of these places, they actually have their own little markets and things like that, which are lovely little things to go there and meet the local people and see what's going on.
They often also have great Facebook groups where you can probably get to know people and also see what's going on around your area.
And one of my most favourite things is just the feeling of peace and calm. Like if I've been working out in the paddocks and I'll turn the engine off the tractor, just to sit there in peace and quiet, it's beautiful. Just feeling a bit of nature.
Yeah, having all the trees around you and just open space. I can't even stress enough how much difference open space makes.
Yeah, I feel if we ever moved back to a smaller plot into a housing estate again, I just feel too claustrophobic now.
I mean, it's only been probably 5 months ago that we moved and we already feel like we just love being on an acreage with this much space. It might be hard work, but it's worth it.
I think also living on acreage property, you experience so much more wildlife. As you can probably hear when we're doing this video, all the birds. Looking out the back there, there's 6 kangaroos standing out there in a paddock. We've seen snakes.
I don't know if that's an attraction.
We've seen possums living on this property so far. We're still on the hunt to look for a koala.
When we say on the hunt, we're not hunting koalas,
Yeah,
just to look at.
Yeah. Hunting with our cameras.
Yeah, just to be clear about that.
Yeah.
But it's just so beautiful to come home, see kangaroos hopping around the property or munching on the grass, to see kookaburras,
Eating frogs.
magpies, which we're no longer scared of. Just all those things. Oh, it's just the most beautiful feeling.
It is.
While an acreage might be a lot of hard work, and it certainly isn't for everybody, and probably when we first moved here it wouldn't have been a good idea because we needed to get to know people and get more involved in the social aspect of being in Australia, it's certainly a great option for many people and we love it.
Yeah, I said to Maz years ago I want to move to an acreage property, so as we're quite a big family, we are going to sort of spread with years to come, so the girls will want a bit more room for grandkids coming around and family coming over. It's an amazing thing because you can spread out, you can put extras on your property. It's just great for the future.
Please give this video a like, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you next Sunday.
Bye.
Ooh, I nearly fell over.
Hi guys, and welcome back to the Bam Fam Lamb. And this week we will be talking about what it's like living on acreage.
He stole my part. That was a surprise. By the way, you've got some flaky bits.
So,
Oh, wow.
hang on. Margot from Makeup. Margot?
Halfway. Yes. I don't look as good on your phone as I looked in the mirror.
Mine's HD.
Oh.
Oh. One day technology.
Oh, I've got to get a bit closer so I don't have my legs with all my bites in it. Anywho. Anywho.
Hi guys, and welcome back to the Bam Family.
Sorry, I was waving my hands
Yeah,
around.
you always are. Very dramatic. Ready?
Yes.
Hi guys, and welcome back to the Bam Family. And this week we are going to let you know what it's like having life on an acreage plot.
Do you want to say that again?
Yeah. And this week we're going to let you all. Hang on.
Take 4.
And this week we're going to let you know what it's like living on acreage.
Good job.
You might. Too easy.
Clearly not.
Or mozzies that aren't always in your face. Yeah, and now Maz has brought her head out of the clouds after doing a couple of days work on the farm. She now realises how much hard work it is and how it's not going to be as stunning as like a golf course or something like that.
I love that little dig and I'll be sure to include it in the video.
There you go. Oh. I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Once I caught a kangaroo alive. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Once I caught. Often you'll be a lot further away from local convenience. Hang on.
Do you want to start again?
Yes. No pressure. Yes. But ours is blue, so it is for boys.
Well, he is a boy. Not just for boys though. I ride Trav too. It's always a worry what I'm going to say, isn't it?
Yeah. Yes. I want to ride Trav. That's going in the video.
That's quite a funny vision actually. Right. We might have to act that out so we can get that as B-roll.
Right. You wouldn't be able to. You've got me as friend.
I was joking. Oh. That would just be weird.
It is weird.
It's in cashola.
Cash, yes.
Be sure to watch these awesome videos, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and follow us on our socials at the Bam Family in Australia.